Hi guys, how are you doing today? Ready for new stories I've prepared for you? The first one is a crazy one. It's about OP's boyfriend's parents, who are trying to set up OP with her boyfriend's brother. How crazy is that? Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My boyfriend is sort of the black sheep of his family. His parents really like me. From the night they've met me, they've always said I'm such a great girl and all that. At first, I was overjoyed. It's always great to have your significant other's parents like you. And for some time, I was super happy. I've always been an overachiever, so I'm super busy. I play tennis and soccer. I have an internship with a consulate. I do very well in school and love to study poetry and linguistics, so I also speak several languages. I'm someone who constantly needs something to do to not get bored. And my boyfriend's parents know all these things and always tell me how dedicated and hardworking I am. And again, at first it was great because I was glad my boyfriend's parents liked me. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is not at all an underachiever, but also not an overachiever. We both go to a really good university, but he got in because of sports initially. He's never been a stellar student, but he does well. He's a great guy. The issue is that his brother is an overachiever. Harvard grad school, brilliant, and super dedicated to everything. And both from what my boyfriend has told me and from what I've noticed, he's clearly the golden child. So for the first few months I've known them, things went well. The first red flag came during a dinner when his mom said something about how I'm almost too good for my boyfriend. That was a weird comment, but I didn't think much of it. Then, the comparisons to his older brother started. Every chance they got, they made some comparison between him and me about how we're both doing this or that. Then one day, his parents told us about his big brother was going to be in our city for the weekend and had an extra ticket to one of my favorite bands, and that I should go with him, my boyfriend's brother. Just the two of us. I politely declined and made up an excuse, but I told my boyfriend about it. He said it was weird, but if I wanted to go, I should have gone, but I wasn't going to do that. Then, while he was in town, my boyfriend's brother texted me to meet up for lunch or something while he knew my boyfriend was in class. This was more innocent, so I agreed, because he's my boyfriend's family, and the whole lunch he was bad-mouthing his brother. That was about a year ago. Also, I'm Latina, so my boyfriend decided to take up Spanish, which I really appreciate. Then his brother took up Spanish as well, conveniently at the same time my boyfriend did, and his parents kept contacting me to meet up with my boyfriend's brother to help him practice, even though he lives several hours away. But again, this can all be taken kind of innocently as well. So I've been reluctant to put too much thought into it. Last weekend, however, his family came into the city to visit and kept talking about how my boyfriend's brother and I look so cute together. When my boyfriend was in the bathroom, they asked me if it was ever annoying to have a boyfriend who wasn't quite as smart as me. I was livid, but I brushed it off as a casual question and tried to pretend to stay calm. At the end of the night, his mother asked me to take a picture with the brother and posted it on Facebook, as well as a few other pictures of the group, but not one picture of me and my boyfriend together. And the caption of the picture of me and his brother was, "An absolutely adorable couple. Love you, my name." His mother wrote that. Since then, I decided it was time to bring it up to my boyfriend. He said he'd noticed it, but it's best to ignore it because his parents and brother are always trying to take stuff away from him. He told me not to worry about it. He can handle it and doesn't want to start conflict. But it's bothering me too much at this point. I love my boyfriend, but I don't want to cause any tension in the family. It's just so uncomfortable and sad, especially since he's such a great guy who I truly love. And it pains me to see his family treat him like some placeholder and me like some trophy for their other son. I'm just so pissed and confused. I don't know how to confront this with his parents. My boyfriend doesn't want to start anything, and neither do I, but I feel like I have to talk to his parents and brother about this. Wow, these people are vile. I can't believe they have the gall to say and do all of this in front of OP's boyfriend, and it seems like Big Brother is fine with doing the same. I really hope that OP's boyfriend gets away from them. Ideally, I'd say OP's boyfriend should talk with them first, but given their attitude towards him, it might be more effective if they hear it directly from OP. They need to firmly state that their behavior is making OP uncomfortable, and OP will not tolerate them disrespecting her boyfriend like this. They need to limit contact if they don't listen, but it's imperative that OP and her boyfriend be on the same page regarding this. The longer version is, I grew up in a happy home with my mother Anna, father Peter, and sister Jane. Anna and Peter had a good marriage. They were loving parents, and the only complaint I would make is Peter had a demanding job that meant he wasn't around much. But now in hindsight, I see that when he had the time, he would spend it with us, and his job meant we went to good schools and never had to worry about money. My sister Jane is 3 years older than me, and she has a godfather named Ben. Ben went to university with my mother, and he and his wife were close family friends growing up, and I am friends with his son James, who is about a year older than me. I look a lot like my mother, like spitting image, while Jane is a good mix of both my parents. One of the things that bothered me growing up was that I didn't seem to inherit any behavioral or physical traits from my dad. And when I went through puberty, I shot up and was much taller than the rest of my family. My mother explained this away as being probably some kind of genetic throwback, since her grandmother was quite tall, etc. There was also a few times where James and I were mistaken for siblings, which, again, we just thought was funny at the time, and presumed it was because we grew up so closely, we must have given off that vibe. Things came to a head a few months ago when Ben asked me if he could take me out for lunch. I first was worried, thinking something was wrong with my sister or James, but then he just told me that he couldn't keep this secret for much longer. He told me that there was a chance he was my biological father. He told me that my parents temporarily separated before I was born, and during this period, he slept with my mother a few times, but she was also still sleeping with my father. When my parents reunited, my mother was honest with Peter and told him that she was pregnant with me, and she couldn't guarantee that he was the father. She told him that Ben may have been the father, but apparently Peter didn't care and wanted to raise me as his own. Ben put 2 and 2 together when my mother was pregnant, and apparently confronted her, but she told him Peter believed I was his, and that was that. He told me that he struggled with this for years, and he has tried to tell me, or make my parents tell me, but they refused, and he was afraid of his wife finding out. He said the final straw was finding out there's some hereditary health problems in their family that James is being tested for, and he was worried about me. I felt like my world had fallen apart. I confronted my parents, and they finally confessed. My mother begged me not to take a paternity test, as it would break my father's heart. But I did it because I was worried about my health. Ben is my biological father, and luckily I didn't have any of the health problems. I don't know how to cope with the aftermath. I feel like I have destroyed 2 families because my parents are having problems. My sister is angry with them and Ben, and she was so close to Ben growing up. Ben's wife has left him, and James is refusing to speak to anyone, and he sent me a long email saying I have destroyed his family. I also don't know what to do in terms of my relationship with Peter and Ben. Peter raised me, and I see him as my father, but it's hard for me to ignore the fact that Ben is my biological father. I feel so angry at my mom as well. I feel like she's the one who's manipulated both men into staying quiet for her own benefit, and it's now torn us all apart. How do I navigate this? Edit. I didn't tell Ben's family. Ben told his wife and James, but this was only after my sister found out, and I suspect she threatened to tell Ben's wife. You can't blame a child from being born from an affair. You can blame the adults for being terrible people. Ben cheated on his wife. OP's mom betrayed Ben's wife. Wow, I feel terrible for Ben's wife. 3 people have lied to her for 27 years. I would be devastated and humiliated. I, 26 male, have been with my wife, 25 female, for 8 years and married for 3. We are both on the same boat that we want to start a family soon. My wife is extremely beautiful. She is on another level of beauty. It's surreal. She once opened up to me about how she feels her only worth comes from her beauty, and that's all people see her as. So she is very scared of becoming unattractive to me and in general. I, of course, did not marry her for her beauty. She has a lovely heart and soul, and I would be with her no matter how she looked. We were discussing pregnancy, and she told me she wants to get a surrogate. I was surprised and asked why, but she got defensive and wouldn't tell me why. I asked if there was a medical problem she was keeping from me, and she didn't say anything. I got concerned and said maybe we should go to the hospital to see if her body's fit to carry a baby. She said that wasn't necessary and went to bed, near tears. I was so confused. My wife and her sister are very close, and I have a good relationship with her, so I texted her to see what was up. My sister-in-law then connected the dots and told me when they were teenagers, my wife had said she didn't want to get pregnant because of the stretch marks and weight gain. I was horrified that this could be the reason she wanted a surrogate. When I confronted her about it the next day, she told me it's a woman's right to choose how they want to have a baby, and a man shouldn't get a say because it's the woman who has to suffer through pregnancy. I told her that she was being crazy and irrational, acting like an insecure teenager, not to mention how much money a surrogate would cost, money that we don't have. But she was dead set about not carrying our baby. I told her I'm not having a baby by surrogacy and that she should probably get therapy because the way she's thinking is not healthy. I slept on the couch that night and I could hear her crying from our room. This whole thing is crazy to me. We are adults. She told her friends, and they all texted me saying that it's a woman's right to decide whether or not she wants to carry a baby. But my wife's reasons are ludicrous. I am completely baffled by the whole situation. Any male friends I ask about this agree with me, but female friends agree with her, again saying no one should be forced to carry out a pregnancy. This whole situation is so weird. I just need some unbiased clarity. Am I an idiot? It is absolutely a woman's right to choose if and how she has a baby. But it's also absolutely OP's right to refuse to have a baby via a surrogate. It's issues like these that tend to end relationships because neither party is wrong, and there's basically no room for compromise. It sounds like OP's wife has a lot of issues surrounding her body image in general and really should seek out professional help. OP's reaction was aggressive, but his wife lied to him for 8 years. She's known since she was a teenager she had no intention of having children naturally. And clearly, she knew her reasoning was, from a rational perspective, ridiculous, or else she would have told him sooner. Hell, even when she brought up the idea of surrogacy, she didn't want to explain to him her reasoning. She purposefully waited as long as she could to tell OP, because she knew this would be a point of contention. Edit. Okay, I'm the idiot. I should not have spoken to my wife like that. I was just angry and frustrated in the moment. I understand getting into a screaming match won't help anyone in this situation. To answer some questions, my wife and I discussed having children all the time. We talked about what age would be best for us, the names, and the amount of children. I never asked the method for having these children because I never thought about it. She never brought surrogacy up until this moment. To all those saying we probably shouldn't have kids right now, I think you're right. I'm going to have a conversation with my wife today about us getting couples counseling and her getting her own therapist. I'll do better by my wife. My words were harsh and unneeded, and I do regret how our fight escalated. I'll do better to show her I love her no matter how she looks. The compromise that will likely happen is adoption in a not-so-distant future, as I'm still not willing to go through the surrogacy, and I will not force my wife to go through a pregnancy she clearly doesn't want. Maybe sometime down the road we'll have a biological child, if she's willing. We're still young. My daughter told me about this place, and everyone keeps saying I'm an a-hole. I'm 55, my daughter-in-law is 24, and my son is 26. My son has been with his fiancée for 6 years. They have a 4-year-old child together. I like his fiancée, but she's not around our family much. She works a lot and has a group of friends she always has plans with. So when our son comes to visit, he's alone. My son and his wife had booked their wedding pre-pandemic for March this upcoming year. We'd hoped things would be better by now, but we finally accepted reality that the wedding we wanted will have to be canceled. My son and his fiancée will still be getting married that day. The date is significant to them, but they can only do a very small group of people to be there. We were told for the outside space, it can only be 20 guests. My son has me, his father, my husband, his sister, his brother, and his wife attending, and his 2 best friends. That's 7 people. She has her parents, her brother and his girlfriend, and her grandmother for family, and her 5 best friends. That's 10. Add them all together, and it's exactly 20, including the bride, groom, and their son. But since she has 10 people for her side coming, I want her to give up 2 of those spots for my mom and dad. She said no. She said that it was non-negotiable, that those 5 friends have been there for her since she was 12, and she was having them be there. I think this is ridiculous, and I told her she always prioritizes these friends over everyone else. She said they are her family, and that they have been there more for her, my son, and my grandson than my husband and I ever have. I told my son that this upset me. He said that they were his friends too now, and that even if they weren't, this was a battle I would not win. That his fiancée stated very early on in their relationship that her friends would never not be there for these kinds of things. They met my grandson before I did. They threw her baby shower. They were there for his first birthday while we had to wait for weeks. I'm tired of coming in second to this group of people. I don't want any of them there. I told my son I would not be coming. He said that they understood and said they wouldn't fill my spot just in case. My daughter is saying I shouldn't have an opinion since it's not my wedding and I didn't pay for it. But I think our family is getting cheated again by her friends. Looks like OP does not understand that it's not her wedding. OP is making this day about her own wants instead of those of her son. OP's son wants his and his wife's friends there. It doesn't seem like he has a strong connection to his grandparents, and OP doesn't seem to care about who he and his wife want there. I'm not surprised the fiancé doesn't visit much. It's clear that OP prioritizes her needs over her daughter-in-law and also her son. And OP is not going to the wedding because of this? Is this really the hill she wants to die on? 'Cause if it is, she'll never see her own grandchildren because of her entitled attitude, and I wouldn't blame her son for cutting off all contact with her.